Alan Wake's American Nightmare is a third person action shooter with light horror elements, and I believe is the direct sequel to Alan Wake. I never played Alan Wake 2, so don't quote me on that, but I think this game takes place before Alan Wake 2. It was a short game, taking 3.5 hours to beat, although if somebody wanted to skip optional dialogues and not read manuscript pages, you could probably finish it in closer to just 3 hours. Unlike Alan Wake, which had a large focus on storytelling, American Nightmare focused largely on combat, with a simpler and shorter story. I'll try to keep my story breakdown vague to decrease spoilers, but spoiler warning ahead. Taking place 2 years after Alan Wake, Alan is stuck in a alternate world and having to deal with a guy called Mr. Scratch, who's kind of an evil version of Alan and wants to keep him trapped in this alternate world and in a repeating time cycle. But Alan is able to break free of the cycle, defeat Mr. Scratch, and come back to the real world to be reunited with his wife. Of course, there's more to the story than just that, but again, trying to keep story spoilers to a minimum. As I stated, Alan is stuck in a time loop, and this is where things get interesting. This title has 3 levels that you have to play through 3 times before you can break the cycle, but each time you go through the level is shorter, as Alan already knows some things he needs to repair or collect, or somebody else stuck in the cycle already completed some objectives for him. And characters you meet are aware that they're also in the time loop, and every time you meet them, new dialogue options are available. This is just a theory, but I wonder if the reason you play the same 3 levels on repeat is that maybe the devs only had enough money for 3 levels and were like, we're just gonna have to make it work, or maybe it was designed that way from the start. Just a theory. Graphics wise, this game looks great with amazing cutscenes as well. Sound effects were overall pretty good. The soundtrack had a few heavy metal songs, which I liked, but beyond that, it was just okay. On to combat, this game basically took the combat from Alan Wake and improved it in every way possible. It's easier to dodge enemy attacks, you can carry more ammo, you seem to reload your weapons faster, and you have a much bigger arsenal than in the first game. In the campaign and arcade survival mode, new weapons are locked behind manuscript requirements. You have to collect X amounts of pages to unlock a new weapon, which really encourage the player to go out of their way to look for them. Off the top of my head, I want to say Alan Wake maybe had half a dozen weapons tops, but American Nightmare had at least 10 from what I recall. Not sure if I had a favorite weapon, but I'd consider the M16 a possible candidate. Like the first game, enemies are shrouded in darkness and you must first break the darkness with light before you can kill them, although this game did introduce 2 enemy types without the darkness shroud. A big enemy that split into 2 when hit with light, and I want to say the spiders didn't have a darkness shield, both of which were new enemies introduced into this game. Off the top of my head, the only other new enemy I remember was the bird human enemy. While the birds were in the first game, in American Nightmare they turned themselves into a human who you have to kill. And overall the enemies had pretty good designs. I mentioned the arcade mode. I played the first 4 maps and really enjoyed it. It's basically an arena with supplies scattered around, and you have to survive 10 minutes until sunrise while trying to get the highest score possible to unlock new maps. Really fun. And I think that pretty well sums up Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Earns a 8.1 out of 10 from me. Wait for a sale though. Its normal price of $9 is just too high for me. I paid $2.50 on sale I think, and it's worth that for sure. A couple games I'd suggest if you enjoyed this title and are looking for similar games are Quantum Theory and maybe Resident Evil The Mercenaries. Well, that's all from me for today, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Would love to hear your comments down below. For anyone new here to my channel, I mostly play, review, and discuss zombie and horror games, so feel free to check out some of my other content if that sounds interesting. Always remember that Jesus loves you all very much. Peace.